Hi, this is Kamile Hamiloglu from Istanbul, Turkey. I work at Kamile University as a teacher educator, as Rob stated. I do have lots of research in professional development, critical thinking, reflection, and critical reflection. Today we'll be talking about critical reflection, referring to teacher education mainly. Critical thinking actually is the base root of critical reflection, and critical reflection is known as an extension of critical thinking. So the technical rationality of critical thinking actually is expanded and recovered, if we tell in this way, in critical reflection. So with critical thinking, we've got personal practice and ideas. We ask a person his practice and ideas, and then we wait for him or her think and step back to examine our thinking by asking questions to ourselves. So it's not only about past, it's not only about present, but it's also about future thinking and speculation about future aspirations as well. So critical reflection actually is asking us not only thinking, but also how to act about our thinking, the ways that we think. So when we think about the components of critical reflection, we could see experience, we could see self, we could see knowledge, which are actually affected by culture, social context, political context, emotions, time, language, and we have got many components affecting how we think and then reflect. Of course, there is a discussion on reflection, descriptive reflection, which we accept as a regular way of considering reflection and critical reflection. So there are views interchangeably in the literature. So when we look at the research about this, we see that descriptive reflection is more theory-based, while critical reflection is more personal-based. And critical reflection, with this respect, is another level of reflection beyond what we might not cover in forms of reflection. For example, diaries and journals are good for reflecting, but we also reflect on what we write in diaries and journals. We also think again what we wrote, what we considered in diaries and journals. So it's creating another level beyond normal and regular descriptive reflection. So when we look at the theories behind these two terms, we see that critical theories are predominantly abstract, and critical pedagogy is directly concerned with social action and educational change. So with critical reflection, we have got diagnosis on our thoughts and ideas about our own acting, practicing, thoughts and preconceptions and feelings, actually. So we test it again and again ourselves. And also we look at the causes and results of our actions and thinking. And so we actually have a great variety as an outcome all the time, and it brings development through experience by this way. So Farrell, for example, compared two terms, and he of course, based on Paul and Richard's table of this split, in terms of EFL methods and approaches, evaluating, teaching, questions about teaching and self-awareness. So we see that descriptive reflection is more based on the reasons based on methodology, but critical reflection is again not only reasons and knowledge, but also the outcomes of thinking and considerations of the person at the personal level. When we refer teacher education, we have to consider two directions mainly if we want to think about critical reflection. Discursive direction and practical direction. Of course, we know that discursive direction is mainly the lecture room where pre-service teachers have their work, discourse, based on actually discourse and activities through coursework and class participation. And when we look at the practical direction, we immediately remember and mention practicum as a community of practice, which is a concept for learning taking place within organizational settings, which is socially constructed and involves participants collaborating to develop new knowledge and skills. So in a practicum school, learning takes place through classroom experiences and teaching practice and depends upon relationships with peers, teachers, supervising teachers, incorporating teachers, and students, of course. So these two directions come and help student teachers, pre-service teachers, construct their professional identities, and it helps them understand who they are and who they think other people are, and contribute to their understanding of teaching by paying attention to both their identities in discourse, which is about their theoretical knowledge in a way, and identities in practice, their own teaching practices. So identity in practice here, of course, a very action-oriented approach that we understand how pre-service teachers develop, improve their professional identities through their practices, especially in practical schools. So why do we consider critical reflection in teacher education and training? Of course, lots of things await pre-service teachers when they become teachers in the future. So, for example, curriculum, covering curriculum, and how to follow methods, which methodology to teach, management problems, administration, relationship, requirements for standards to be met in terms of professional behavior, measures for performance, predetermined outcomes and targets. So to be able to cope with them in their professional careers, throughout their professional careers, they should be ready in a way to actually deal with both pros and cons of being a teacher, being a language teacher. I'm talking about ESL in this context. So critical reflection prepares them in a way during their pre-service education, because they could transform what they've got in terms of understanding how they practice, why they practice, and how they could, improve their practice, and what kind of teachers they are becoming and they will become, and then how they could put everything they learn from their own critical thinking and reflection on their new practices to develop their teaching being, teaching professional, teaching identity. So in terms of locating and situating themselves in their communities of practice as their professional landscape and also their social community, they would be, prepared and ready through this critical reflection throughout their teacher education, especially during their final years, when they go for practicing to the practicing schools. We find it very significant, actually, today, why pre-service teachers, trainee teachers should put critical reflection and thinking in their teaching practice. Because today we talk about transformative teacher education, through which students are transferring from primarily being students to being teachers. So their practices then should be actually based on analyzing their own thoughts, ideas, feelings, and referring again three strands here in terms of reflection. We could talk about reflect on action here. They should be able to think about their past experiences to transfer them to their reflection in action, present activities, present teaching practices, and also they should be transferring their reflection in action to reflection for action, which is about their future experiences and future aspirations. So when we look at this circle, these three strands, of course, reflection in action, on action, and for action. So we see that we've got a circle here that with their feelings, emotions, thoughts, and ideas, we are actually asking pre-service teachers what they are thinking and feeling about their practices, their own practices, and then they are able to evaluate them themselves by looking at from different perspectives. What was good about it? What was bad about it? And then they should put analysis. So how can they make sense of their, both practices and feelings, thoughts, and ideas? And they've got conclusions on that, personal conclusions. Of course, by evaluating them in their own landscapes, which we call communities of practice. And they've got new action plans, new plans for the future. If we exemplify this, I practice this with my own student teachers, pre-service teachers. They were keeping diaries and journals for many years in my practical courses. And when I decided to add critical reflection component to my teaching, I wanted them not only to write their own experiences and other teachers supervising or corporate teachers' experiences, but also their own thoughts about their own practices and other people's practices, but mostly thinking about their own practices made them actually improve their future activities as well. So when they tried new activities in the class, I saw that they were adding new strategies themselves, new techniques themselves, so they were able to reflect on their mistakes or success as well. In the reflective practice. So what I understood, it was not only writing their experiences and memories on a diary page, but also reflecting on those pages, thinking about experiences, giving a way to become better teachers day by day. So, of course, this is in several strands. This is happening in many steps. So, analysis on their assumptions, beliefs, social structures that they are living in, and considering their effect and influence on their practice is one step. And they are, developing awareness on this context and also their own situation, determining again the social and cultural components, conditions, context, personally and socially, and then speculating on them, how they could be challenged, how they could be coping with them, seeing that as a challenge, and then asking themselves questions, asking themselves, how they could be just rejecting some parts which are harming their usual regular teaching, and also how they are producing new ideas and perspectives. So I could say that the outcomes are new awareness, new questions, new understanding, new decisions, new acts, and development and improvement actually comes back to us as evolution of personal and professional being, so development and improvement.